It was also one of the biggest heartbreaks of my life, you know?
Yeah, Lebanon is a heartbreak.
I do remember this feeling of hope and having this conversation with my parents over the phone. Like, my dad, he'd gone through this process in his lifetime of having this hope and going on the streets and protesting and feeling like there might be room for change. My community, at least, like, literally paused our entire lives and livelihood to be on the streets because of this hope. And it's just so crazy to think back at how the past 5 years have been. And now that I see it in retrospect, is also huge warfare, like the mental warfare that is imposed on us of like removing this purpose and hope. This really kills us.
Welcome to another episode of Sage Takes Time. I'm Elissa.
I'm Amira.
And
I'm Blu Fiefer.
We're so hyped to have Blu on this show. It was actually like a coincidence that we all happened to be in town and this came together very quickly. So I'm just so like grateful that we were able to make it work. I've actually been a fan of your music, but specifically one song that I discovered you from back in 2020.
Sintel Eo.
Yes, and that was a song that I think spoke so much to the collective like frustration and grief, but also love of Lebanon at a time when the nation had just been breaking our hearts repeatedly.
As it always does, unfortunately.
As it always does.
Sintel Eo really changed my life. Really changed my career, really changed my like creative direction. I feel like that was really the beginning of work that I'm really like very solid with, that really represents what I do, that I'm very much in control. Sintel Eo, it's always nice to hear that. Although it's been many years now, I still feel like Sintel Eo is one of my like core babies. Sintel Eo and After has expired for me. When before it was like I would make a song and then I'd make like 30 versions of it and I wouldn't even like any of them like a month after. Anything I've done from 2020 till now, I'm really, so I look back at it like, wow, that really represented the time that I was in. So I love that. I feel like it's one of my greatest achievements creatively, that I am convinced about the work that I'm putting out and that it stands the test of time, especially when you're an artist doing so many shows and people want to hear like the old songs, and sometimes it's a struggle if you've outgrown them. I don't want to jinx myself, but I haven't.
We have a lot of wood around.
Yeah.
What did it reflect at the time, and what do you think shifted for you so that your future music from that moment became something like you really value and is kind of timeless for you?
I had been experimenting with music for like many, many years before then. I'm 32 now. I've been making music or working in the music industry since I was 15, 16. So 14 years going on 15. That's a long time. A long time to experiment and recreate myself. And I went under a different name before and made different kind of music. And my process was different. And I used to make blues and soul and pop. And like I went through so many really different genres, and I used to sing in English. And I think going through, it was like a boil up of so many different things, being exposed to the culture more, specifically the revolution in 2019, like just like dropping our lives to be on the streets and like getting into that perspective and things changing so drastically and having access to the culture from that perspective completely like solidified this change that was happening in me, and having these conversations with people from all across the country on the roads, like literally sitting closing down the roads with people. It doesn't really matter where you're from, what your influences are, you're like there under a very specific kind of vibe and goal and frustration, and that just completely changed my perspective on the language, the place that I'm making music from, who my target audience is, how I want to, even the way I dressed really, really changed. I used to be way more on the glamorous showgirl vibe side before. And I think for like 2 years or 3 years after the revolution, the explosion and COVID, I really had to go through like a big change in the way, like I didn't wear heels for a long time. I couldn't wear jewelry, even fake jewelry, I couldn't wear it for a long time. It just felt so, it really changed us at the core, I think, in Lebanon, the revolution. So that, along with having experimented a lot and then being in control of the music, so I produce and I mix all the music that comes out of my label, I think I've hit a certain maturity creatively so that I operate in the studio in a way that's very, not from an insecure place, not from I want to make what everyone else is making, or this is what I think I should sound like. Like, it's a very pure exercise for me. I'm really just like being authentic and I'm playing around with that. So I think it's a mix of all these things have led me to the point where I'm really, really so sure about my output. And it's very authentic in that sense. So it's making it timeless again.
Yeah.
Touch wood.
It sounds like what you were able to tap into was a type of shift that isn't necessarily a trend. It's like a big shift within yourself that's actually more profound and authentic and like tapping into the true blue. I can relate a little bit in this sense of like, I flew to Lebanon during Thawra to be there on this strike. I felt like it was such a monumental moment.
It was.
That I couldn't not be there. I couldn't not participate. And there was so much hope for the first time in my lifetime around what Lebanon could be and around people coming together and the art that came out of it and the amount of artists that were out there on the streets and being inspired from a place of like deep humanity.
Yeah.
It touches a part of you there, and I can imagine the reason that you both wrote a song. Okay, Sint al-Ew, but you write a song where the lyric is really Saret 2020, and you're naming the year that it takes place, and yet it's timeless. Like, it's a timeless song that names
like every
the time.
year I change the, like live, I'll change the name of the year because it's the same, like not much has changed since then, which is, like, as you were speaking, I actually got so emotional. Like, I do remember this feeling of hope and having this conversation with my parents over the phone, like, my dad didn't, like, you know, he'd gone through this process in his lifetime of having this hope and going on the streets and protesting and feeling like there might be room for change. My community, at least, like, literally paused our entire lives and livelihood to be on the streets because of this hope. And it's just so crazy to think back at how the past 5 years have been, and you know, and last year and how it was, and now I feel like there's a cusp of hope happening in Lebanon with all these reforms, but it's hard to get emotionally invested after everything that we've been through, and specifically the war only a couple months ago. So it's like, but if I want to think about like the positive aspect of it, it's true what you were saying, so much music came out of it. There was a cultural shift that I think was so important, like this ripple effect that's going to happen culturally and that's going to spill over to the next generation, I think is very important. But so heartbreaking. And I look back at Thawra, there's a bittersweetness to it, but it was one of the most important things that happened to me. It was also one of the biggest heartbreaks of my life, you know? Yeah,
Lebanon is a heartbreak. It's like it's a relationship that's very difficult to break away from, because you love so profoundly this place and these people and this culture, and it keeps hurting you.
Yeah.
In and out of the country. I mean, in terms of like, I can't imagine what it's like living in Beirut, because I've never lived in Beirut, but I've always gone back to Beirut and I've always been very involved in what's happening in Beirut emotionally and mentally. And it's just this place of, I want to love you, but you're so bad for me, or you're so mean to me.
This toxic relationship.
Yes.
That the whole tagline of Sint al-Ew was like, when I was trying to tell people about what it was about, we always say this bittersweet relationship that Lebanon harbors with its people. And what I really focused on in this song was like trying to make people feel heard. The statement was just like, this is happening and this is happening and this is happening. And you see me in the video going around the country and showing these things that were happening in real time. Like, there's a place where you see I'm standing in front of a fire and wheels that are on fire, where there was a road that was closed. We literally just took the iPhone and drove around for 3 days, and we were documenting what was happening, like in real time. None of it was staged. That's where the name Mafi Budget came from. It was just me and 3 friends going around shooting with an iPhone. And I really just wanted to showcase the mood of the country It was actually very in a much more comical side. Initially, it was very like, ha ha ha, this is happening, this is happening, we have no electricity, you know, blah, blah, blah.
Snow butter prices are through the roof.
Snow butter prices are up. I went into this jewelry shop and I'm like, can I just film the snow butter in the jewelry box? And he was like, what the fuck are you talking? I was like, please just, and they were just so happy that we were there, that we shot that scene. So this was the perspective. And then the explosion happened and I could not look at the footage. I was editing this video myself. I've edited all my videos as well. Like this is a really important part of my craft as well. I had like 42 versions. I never forget that number. And then the explosion happened and I was like, I cannot look at this. Like there's no way. Like our city just blew up. So many of our friends died. Our studios are gone. There's no way I can watch this funny, comical piece. It was one of the most draining exercises of my life editing this and having to go through the news every single day to archive everything and make sure and show it to people and see not their feedback, but how it made them feel and if that's something I was okay with. Because this was it's very sensitive when you're talking about something that everyone's going through. Everyone's going to have such a different opinion about it. Everyone's going to feel really strongly, like negatively or positively. We would go around to different friends and friends of friends places and show it. And I'd be like, tell me your feedback. And I wouldn't process it in a way of like, they said to do this and not this, but I would just really watch what were the trigger points for them. And I would try to see with myself if I was okay with the limit of that, especially like showing the explosion. One of the biggest conversations was, why do you want to show this footage? It's extremely traumatizing that we already have so much PTSD, this red smoke color, like nobody can see it. And I really battled so much with myself of like, I don't want to trigger people, but we're trying to document this moment in time. Like if I remove this, like this would it really make sense? Would it really be fair to our current reality to erase this thing? Like I get not wanting to talk about it. I didn't want to relive this footage over and over again myself, editing it. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like now I'm so glad that I did that because I would not be okay talking about 2020 and just completely removing this insanely life-changing, horrible event that had, like, we have to, no matter how hard it is, sometimes we have to show what's happening. We have to represent what's really happening. So don't know how I got to this point, but we got here.
I'll tell you, you're sitting with Womena, and what you're talking about is definitely something that like is a part of what we do and how we choose to do these things. We can look back at the last 10 years of storytelling that Womena's done, and it has essentially been like documenting the reality of this community of women over the last decade and what that's meant and what the type of messaging was around them and how they would portray themselves. And what I think is so beautiful as an artist, my sister always says, you have the input of the universe, but the output of one person. And you as an artist had to take in so much of what it meant to live in Lebanon in those years. I mean, just the last 5 years alone, but really if we're talking about 2019, 2020, that was a lot we're taking in. And then adding up the art that you're putting out. I mean, in what way was that intentional for you to take on all of those roles? Was it something that you were from the beginning, like, I'm just gonna do this, and it came naturally to you, where you just said, oh, of course I'm gonna film it, of course I'm gonna edit it, of course I'm gonna do this? Or was it because of circumstances that you ended up taking on all those roles?
So initially when I chose like music as a path, when I was around 14, 15 and I dropped out of school, I, at the time, used to identify as like more of a singer. And I wanted to sing because I felt like that was the most frontline way of being a storyteller. And I went to London to study music and I started understanding way more about how things actually work, what goes into putting out a song, or even becoming somebody who makes songs. That's a whole journey on its own. And when I started working in Beirut and like waiting for this thing to happen that would never happen, or waiting for this manager to come in, or this label to come in, or this call, or whatever ideas we used to have when we were younger about how things work, like, oh, I'm just talented, they're gonna find me.
Like,
they're gonna call, this was the, like they're gonna, and there wasn't the ecosystem or even the knowledge that we have now, or even the internet. Like none of, when I was 15, maybe it was the beginning of YouTube. I'm not sure even, like this was very early on. So it was a journey of discovering every step of the way that I need so much more than just whatever my talent was to be able to be a sustainable, consistent artist that has an output. And I started realizing that there's so like making a video, making a song, working with a producer, getting a mixing engineer, getting a mastering engineer, understanding what distribution is, what is marketing, what is doing cuts for social media, what is like, it was so much. And I had to depend on so many people that weren't necessarily as into the project as I am, because it's my project. And I can't expect and I didn't have any money to come in and like throw thousands of dollars for one thing that you're doing. Like, it's so unrealistic, actually, if you think about it. So along the way, it was a series of, fuck it, I'll do it myself. Fuck it, I'll do it myself. Fuck it, I'll learn how to direct. And then first it was like, just to get it done, and then I'll find the people that are gonna come in and do it. And then the next stage of that was like, no, but I actually really know how I want this thing to be done. It's not just that I want somebody to come in and do it. Like, I really want to direct. It's very important for me that I make those calls. Editing. Oh my God, I hate the hours of editing. Like, I want somebody else to come in and do it. And then it's like, no, let me do it. I know exactly how I want this to be done, which shout out to all the people that really suffered working with me at that stage in my life when I was really very like set on what I wanted and wasn't sure how to communicate that. I'm much more fluent in feedback now. So eventually it became part of my craft. So it started as a need, as a survival, as if I want to do this, I have to do it myself, especially in Lebanon in those times. And then it became, this became part of my craft. And eventually putting all those things together, we realized that like I'm already operating as a label. So it wasn't even intentional as I want to open a label and I want to do this. It was like automatically, it's already what we're doing. I do help out other artists. I'm doing all the label stuff for myself. It only makes sense to put it under something that other people can also come in and put into this label, put into this community, which is when we made Sint El-Ew. And at the end of Sint El-Ew, you'll see like written, produced, whatever, mixed, edited by Blu Fiefer. And the slide after is like, Aslan ma fi budget. Okay, so it started as a joke.
Yes.
And I got so much, like, it really resonated with people, especially at the time when the crisis and the financial economic collapse. It was such a funny thing for people to say, especially as Lebanese, we're very proud, you know, not a lot of people are happy to say no ma fi budget, yet that's all you hear in the behind the scenes. So I felt like it was powerful to take that and say like, yeah, ma fi budget, and then people just laugh always when they hear that. So it kind of happened naturally, but now I wouldn't say I would recommend that for anyone at all. Actually, I don't recommend it whatsoever to do what I do. But for me, it's become my way of doing things, and building the business has really been so important in my process as well.
As an artist, you mean?
I guess, yeah, because I do have a vision of how something should be put out. What are the things that should be said, how things should be positioned, how things should be communicated, who are the partners that we should be bringing by, what is fair as a percentage. Like, my experience has naturally like kind of made me very opinionated about those things, because I've been around for a while and I've been exposed to these things over and over again. So I do have a way of doing things. So now I've been building the label for many years. I've been making my album since Sint El-Ew, so 2020 till now. And my album, finally, 2025.
Yeah.
But it's not the music that took time. Yeah. You know, it's everything around it as well. And me being, at the end of the day, one person, and all the wars and all the things and all the, you know,
and all the wars,
all the
obviously.
things, obviously, that have made it amazing to be a creative in the Middle East for the past few years. It's been quite a journey. There's definitely parts of the business or the things that I eventually would like for somebody else to come in and do, but now at least I know how to direct, give feedback. I know how to.
You can also tell if someone's going to take advantage of an artist, or if they're structuring things in a way that doesn't make sense. I 100% know when somebody's going to take advantage of an artist. I'm that bitch you don't want in the room when contracts are getting signed. Right. But you're the bitch that the artists need in that room.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
how does all of these things and like knowing how things are going to end up, like knowing now the whole process and how it's going to be received by the audience and how you want to visualize it and how you want to direct it, how does it affect like the kinds of stories you're telling through your music and through your art? What kind of inspirations do you pull from, and what is like essentially the story that you find yourself trying to tell through your artistic work?
I'll search for something when I'm brainstorming or if I'm making a song, like I'll search it on a very emotional level, and I'll just like, once I find a direction or once I find a concept, and then I like flirt around with it, but at some moment it really clicks, and all those mediums that you're talking about, from the production to the filmmaking to the marketing, just become like very executional in the sense of like, I know what the end goal is, and it's like a puzzle. It's just about making the decisions to get to that place. And it does help that I'm the person making those shots creatively along, because I know how things serve each other and why I'm saying we need to cut here in the video, because I know that in the music there's this sound, and like those things really, like, that's a huge advantage in taking those shots. So far, I don't really think about things like, oh, this is what's trendy. Maybe I should be more like this, but I haven't been like this. If you listen to my music, it's really hard to put it in a box genre-wise. It's not very like, I could take like what's happening in the market and do a market study and give myself 3-4 briefs. I'm a music producer. I can do that very easily. And maybe I'll do that at some point for fun, but so far it's been so introspective. And I know that sometimes my audience is quite polarized because they've seen me talk about like politics, and they've also seen me like pole dance in my shows, or they've seen me talk about like reinventing yourself and dabah, like how entering my villain era, and then talking about like immigration, you know. But at the end of the day, like I'm a fully functioning human being that has so many different sides, and I'm interested in politics just as much as I'm interested in my personal development and my sexuality and my friends and and my family. Like I'm all those things. So I do play around quite a lot. It's just natural.
Yeah. I think that's the power that I hear you discussing, knowing all the parts of the process and knowing where you want to go. There's so much power in what you're saying. Like you're telling so many multifaceted stories in such an authentic way. Yeah. And so of course they're going to touch on all these things. You're not being like pigeonholed, because you said it was like a burden. Maybe I don't recommend it for everyone, but it also sounds like a very powerful position to be in such control and know exactly what you want to say and give yourself the space, or create the space for yourself to say it unapologetically the way you want.
Yeah. No, this control and this power that you're talking about is like what keeps me through the challenging parts of it. I'm a fully functioning manager. I'm a fully functioning label head. I'm a fully functioning artist. I'm a fully functioning producer. I produce for myself, for other people. I manage myself and it's really a lot. It's a lot mentally. It's a lot emotionally. I'm tired a lot. But the fuel is this that you're talking about, like this being able to take control of certain narratives, or being able to navigate through the industry creatively and on a business level. I think it came as a reaction, because before I was at the mercy of a lot of people and a lot of gatekeepers and a lot of men in the studio, that now it's like so freeing to be like, you're sitting on my table.
Yes.
I'm not knocking on the door. This is
I
my
built this
table.
myself.
Yeah, after so many years of like not being let in. So it's like, no matter how tired I am, it's like, I'll just take a deep breath and I'll look at where my life is now, and I'll cry of joy just thinking about the freedom and the control that I have over myself and my output. And I know that very little people not a lot of people can say that, especially female artists and female producers. So I wouldn't say a privilege, because I've worked so hard to be able to have that. And a big part of my mission is to be able to give that to other artists as well, because I know what it's like on the other side. It is not fun at all.
I think it's very common that like some artists have just their experience and their expression of their experience as their mission in life. My only mission is to absorb life and put out how I experience it. But I feel like you're an artist who who has much more behind her as her mission. And I would love to hear from you directly, like whether it's all these roles or what type of music you're choosing, like what is kind of driving that? What's the purpose and what's the mission of it? Is it for you to be the biggest, best, most well-known artist in the industry? Is it just to express yourself? Is it something more than that?
Initially, like I said, it does come from a need, a gap. Like a gap in the market, more specifically بلبنان. يعني I don't think that right now saying that in Egypt maybe it would be so fair because there's so many people like set up that are doing management companies, record labels, whatever. Maybe if I was here, I'd still choose to do my own thing. I'm not sure. But in Lebanon, it really came as a need of like when I make music or when this thing that clicks, the flow, when it's happening and I'm like looping the same 4 bars or 8 bars for 7 hours, frantically dancing, crying by myself. That moment, but the systems are not set up for that to be really exposed or for people for it to reach as much people as it can. That was where the need came from of like, I really need to build the systems in place to make sure that we are, how can we push this to serve these ideas that I think can inspire people, that I think can make people feel seen, that can make people feel empowered or just empowered to be themselves. It can be as simple as that. But it came from a need. I do hope I'll get to a season in my life where I'm just fully tapped into the artist side, because I would say right now maybe the artist is like 7%.
Oh, wow. Only.
Singing is 1%.
Right.
The rest is music production. The 6% is music production. And then the 93%, the label.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I'm not able to, at least right now, we just finished the war. I had to rebuild again from scratch once again after getting to a point where we're really starting to move. I lost all my team. They were displaced. We lost all our income. We lost even the ability to talk about anything that wasn't war at the time. So rebuilding that is 90% of me right now.
Wow.
I'm not able to, like Blu, the artist now with the album era, she's coming back. I'm able to think about that again, but like, it's just a need, like just surviving in this atmosphere as an Arab artist, literally just physically to start with, and then mentally. And then, you know, I got to a point in the war where I hadn't gotten there in a very long time. And I've had, I would say, a rough life, a rough upbringing. But I definitely reached rock bottom, like, what the fuck's the point? I don't want to be here anymore. When I lost my team, because I put my whole life into building that mission, that purpose. The purpose being taken away from everyone, now that I see it in retrospect, is also huge warfare, like the mental warfare that is imposed on us of like removing this purpose and hope. This really kills us in some way. It kills our soul. I think it was important to feel like I lost everything, to be like, I've not much more to lose. And I actually don't like it here. I actually really don't like it here. The despair is not for me. I want the hustle back. I'm going to bring everybody back. I'm going to get Johnny back from wherever he is in New York. I'm going to get the label up and running. I'm going to bring Blu back to the stage, no matter how long this takes. And I just like got up with a frantic fire. And I haven't stopped yet. And I see the crash coming. But it's been survival mode for a while. Yeah. For a while. I've brought my team back. Yeah. It's been 2 weeks, so that's very fresh. Wow. Yeah, no, it's been reaching that level of nothing, and then fighting for, it gave me the label and my team, like, it's not a label in the sense of like, it's not a corporate company. It's like really a purpose of like, even being able to offer people jobs in music in Lebanon. That's so fucking unheard of.
Yeah, it's radical in and of itself.
It's radical. It's fucking radical. That's crazy. Like, you know, like that's Johnny's dream job, like, you know, it got taken away from him. Like, it just gave me such a bigger purpose than just myself to like, crawl back out of the fucking darkness and just give it my all, like my all, like every inch of me. And that price that you pay, I think, I keep saying that, but عن جد forever changed.
Right.
forever change the things that we've seen in the past few years, whether it was in Beirut or in Gaza or all the things. Like, there's no way you can be the same. Like, there's no way.
Yeah.
Can I ask you for context, just for people that might not fully understand what it is that you're referring to? When you say about like the ecosystem in Lebanon and like the lack of an ecosystem there and offering these opportunities to artists, and your team went away and then they were displaced and then you brought them back, like, can you explain a bit more the context, the full context of that? Yani, when you compare it to مثلا the ecosystem and what's happening in Egypt, just really if you can try to quantify the, I don't know what to call it, يعني the lack of an ecosystem عشان نتخيل يعني قد إيه ما فيش access and resources and support so that people can understand a bit more what it is someone like you is trying to create in this very harsh circumstances.
Yeah. So to start off, we are a very, very small, tiny country. Like I mentioned the other day, Egypt is, I don't want to get it wrong, 120 million?
Yeah, we don't know, probably more by the minute.
Probably more, yeah.
At least
So 120 to 140 million. Lebanon were 4 to 6 max million in the entire country. So already that makes the, just to put the population into context, let alone people who are listening to independent music. It's a very small pool. So back in the day, we used to have, obviously we have the Lebanese pop, which has always been thriving. So proud of it.
Dominated the scene for
Dominating
many, many
the
years.
scene, wallah, from the Rahbanis to Fairuz to Nancy to Elissa to Haifa to, like, love them all. But it's very different from what we do, even in the way that we do it, in the way that we make decisions and our target audience. So even though we had the pop thriving in Lebanon, we have not had independent music really crossover in that sense to the point where it's sustainable or to the point where it can become a full-time job. We had Soap Kills, we had Yasmin Hamdan, we had Mashroua Layla. We all saw what happened to Mashroua Layla. And then...
Just got chills when you said that.
Yeah, I mean...
It strikes such a chord.
That's the reality. And even when you, in this very limited space with low resources, and then you make it, and then you're trying to be authentic to yourself, and like still in a region like this, you can still have that all taken away
from you. It's the saddest thing to think about what happened to Mashroua Layla. No matter what you think about their music, no matter what you think about them personally or whatever, what they stood for, what they did, for their end to be that way, for them to deal with what they dealt with and to have to leave the country and to be prosecuted that intensely is an attack on all of us creatively. Because if they can do that to them, they can do that to me, they can do that to you, they can do that. It's not, this is a red line for me when it comes to this. After Mashroua Layla, I think, I mean, now you're starting to see a little bit more independent, even on the pop side, independent entities like you see Adonis and the label that they're setting up with them and the people that they're working with, but that's still a little bit on the pop side. When it comes to, like, you have a small scene that's experimental indie rock, and then when it comes to hip hop, also very tiny, very, very tiny little things. Not enough to build, not enough venues, managers, 2 maybe labels in the entire country. You know what I mean? Like, it makes the ecosystem so small. So for me to come and say, yeah, I want to build a label on its own, that's already very challenging because I don't even have the people at the time to hire, especially, or the resources to build this team, or the knowledge, or somebody to pick up the phone and ask a question like, hey, I don't know what to do with this. I have this question about this contract, or no one. I had no one. It was figure it out, like make the biggest mistakes, learn from them. So that's why also it took me a very long time. And also funding. I mean, let's not forget the fact that all these things that have happened in the country have made us a non-liable market.
Right.
When it comes to, nobody's investing. Brands are not putting their money in Lebanon because it's not considered a thriving market. At least you guys in Egypt, like, to go back to my initial point about population, there is money being spent.
Yeah, there's a huge consumer population, purchasing power, even though the pound is suffering, but يعني في activity حاصل.
Yes, and صار في ecosystem, وصار في, you have different areas doing different things, and it's very different. But Lebanon, it's so stifled. يعني, it's so stifled. Even the biggest acts have a really hard time being fluid financially or having a long-term plan. that's aside from us rebuilding every time. All these select venues that we have either get blown up or shut down by the events that led to the revolution, the explosion, the wars, the warplanes being unbearable to live under, like all these things. So it's actually, it's really, really extremely thin. And I think being able to say that I'm in Lebanon and I have a record label, no matter how small and independent we are, is my biggest achievement.
When you actually realize that you're at the same time trying to create a space that does not exist, and when it exists, it gets closed off in so many ways that are volatile and dangerous, and you have to do it repeatedly. So you're carving out a whole ecosystem. You're not just like an entrepreneur or like the founder of a label. Like there's so much more to it than that. Yeah.
And that's without mentioning these are all the practical things that I mentioned, and the lack of funding and that's without mentioning the emotional, like how many times can you really rebuild after losing everything or putting your all into something, and then a war happens or something completely out of your control happens, and the project goes away or is not relevant like how many times can you like I know so many people that have come and tried and love Lebanon and love to be there and create, and 95% end up leaving. They'll come back in a few years and try again, and then they'll leave again. Which is, I get it. It's not a failure on their part at all, بالعكس. But the emotional exercise and the you have to be really like, for me, it's do or die at this point. Otherwise, I don't think I'd still be doing that. Like, خلاص, hasta la muerte for sure. Even if you zoom out a little bit from the past 5 years and you look at historically what we've been through in the region and in Lebanon, like just historically, like throughout all these wars, explosions, revolution, we took so much time and effort to educate ourselves over the history of the country, and so many things that we weren't aware of growing up, because I don't know if you know, but the history lessons in schools, I think they stop in I don't want to say like a wrong number, but like at least more than 100, 150 years before.
Wow, okay.
So even when you're studying in school, you don't have real access to the country's history, how it's divided, how things work, what has happened historically. You learn it in your household. And a lot of the time, what you learn in your household is very, what's the word?
Reductive, I would say.
Influence, not objective.
It's coming from a specific side.
Yes.
Whatever that side is.
Yes.
It does like...
or a specific trauma, or a specific perspective. All valid, but I'm saying there isn't like, this is the page, this is the history book, this is what happened. 1, 2, 3 happened. No matter how you feel about it, they can't decide.
Yeah, what happened?
In a country of 4 million people, we cannot decide what actually happened in the Civil War. So through these tragedies, you learn so much, and you have conversations and you ask questions that you never thought you'd have to ask. And you start understanding, oh, this is this loop.
There is no clear like winner of the Civil War to be able to have written the history from the winner's perspective. Every household has a different perspective of what happens, and they always will like glorify certain things and make certain things darker. And I also fear for us to have that, because I even have like deep nostalgia for early 2000s Lebanon, for example, which I know that at the time I didn't think it was that.
Yeah.
Wow.
But because it was like not as tragic as the rest
but now I'm looking back and I'm like, oh man, it wasn't like the prettiest thing all the time, but there was like community, and there was a million different venues to go to listen to a million different genres of music, and there was budding artists and things happening, but there wasn't necessarily the formal ecosystem, but there was a lot of informal elements that did feed together. And I want to find the hope again. And honestly, like, I do in talking to people like you. You know, I don't live with that hope constantly, but in the moments when I touch base with people who haven't fully lost it and who keep contributing and building things and like putting part of themselves into this freaking place that we love. Yeah. You know, that makes me crazy emotional. Like it hits my heart, because like you help like bring hope back to people who need it.
لا شو هالمسؤولية ما تقولي لي
والله بحكي كل مرة, like I can't. There needs to be some episodes where I'm not shedding a tear, but I'm like dead serious. Like it's just, it's really, really important what you do, just by being you and doing what you feel you have to do, or whatever you wake up with in the morning, and putting a little video out on social media, or a little 4-bar snippet
Yeah.
or even funny, goofy videos where I've seen you like messing around with your friend who's like freestyling and like, wait, like just that gives me a little bit of hope that like, بعد في أمل بلبنان, you know, there's still the talent, there's still
One thing we
laughter.
always have is our creativity.
Yeah.
Our sense of humor. That's something that's insane.
For sure,
That's
yeah.
crazy. Like I remember in the middle of the war, like I realized this the most. Like
Yes.
how we're able to make a joke out of everything is like worrisome. Like
Yes.
it's a
Well, you
level-
can't. How else are you gonna get
No, for
through
sure,
that
for
many
sure,
negative
but
things?
like it's highlighted in those environments where like it's so tragic. Like we're literally. I remember sitting at my dad's, having fled from my house and think like with my bag and like my past and not knowing like, and just sitting and like, okay, I don't know if tomorrow we're gonna wake up. What am I gonna do? Am I gonna have a home to come back to? But there was all these jokes on social media about a certain event that was happening at the time, and everybody was just collectively laughing over this one meme, and it was very like obviously dark, like
Yes.
super dark humor. But then I realized we really use humor to cope. That's why our comedy scene is thriving.
Yes.
Lebanon, thriving.
The things that Lebanese people in Lebanon have to overcome on a daily basis just to eat, drink, live, sleep. Like we're not even talking about
Dreaming,
Dreaming.
having dreams. Like
Yes.
that's crazy.
It'd be nice to have a cool dream, I
Yeah.
imagine, you know? But like people don't even realize you're also doing this, not without an industry even present or with a tiny population, but you're also doing this in a place where like uploading time might take you an entire day and a
Or
half.
just might not work at all.
Or might not work at
Yeah.
all. Or like in the middle of recording, the internet might cut and you might lose the whole song that you've just been working on for 2 hours that you didn't save at that moment. And these small
Or not
little-
being able to go into the studio because if I wear my headphones,
you can't hear what's happening.
or you hear it times 10 because of the microphone, and who wants to hear explosions,
Yeah.
period,
Yes.
/ times 10.
Yes.
Like things, details, like I can't even, I hope that I'm really able to represent what that's like for people in Beirut. Yani, I get, especially from like other countries, they say it from a really good intention, the word resilient, like, oh, you guys are so resilient, and I get it, and I don't get offended by that because I know that they mean it from good faith. But the price we've had to pay to be labeled resilient has been way too fucking high.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What I visualize when you describe the journey that you've had to go through and to get to a point where, you know, you've released now your latest album, Villain Balakos, and it's taken 4 years, and what a 4 years
Yeah.
it's been to write music and create. But the visual that I have in my head is not one of a villain without a cause, but actually one more of like a phoenix rising from ashes.
Yeah.
First of all, I love your lyrics. I'm going to just say I'm a big lyrics person. I like melody. Like I love hip hop and rhythm. I love poetry. I'm big on freestyles and hip hop and rap styles. And I think the way that you speak, the way that you write is a way that I have never heard for me. There are Arab rappers that are amazing, right? But coming out of Saudi or coming out of Cairo, and you do both. You sing, you rap, you freestyle, you kind of jump in between genres. And your older stuff is so beautiful. That was in English, but I really love your lyricism. And I wonder if, like, while you're writing it, are you just expressing yourself and what you want to say? Or are you also thinking about the power that it could give to people repeating those lyrics out loud?
I love that question. Thank you. Wallah. لأنه as an artist, growing up as a music fan, I never had somebody that I used to listen to in Arabic dialect speak the way that I speak. It's either very romanticized or very fusha or very proper or very, very rap. There was never like بس نحن ما هيك بنحكي يعني أنا بالطريقة اللي بحكيكي وبالسلانج اللي بحكي فيهم ما عندي موسيقى في اسمعها حس حالي إنه أنا relevant أو حس حالي إنه أنا موجودة أو it always was so, which is also why it took me so long to get into Arabic because I used to feel like, but I don't speak like that. Like, why would I?
Yeah.
I used to think that I have to go up beyond myself to make music in Arabic. And then discovering how other people were doing it here in Egypt or in other countries and like starting to understand like what if I could just do it my way? Again, I have no reference. Like you said, that's why I love this question, because you acknowledge that. Because it's been a very, very intentional decision for me in my lyrics. And also it polarizes people, especially in Lebanon, because the background is Fairuz and Ziad Rahbani, and it's very about the Arabic language. Everybody has such a different claim to it and what it's supposed to mean. So it was quite a challenge to decide to speak like that in Sint El and to speak that way. Or, you know, I have a song called Ekhir Hamme on the album.
Ekhir Hamme, which is great, which features actually
the remix has Perry and Naomi, And that song I love so much, and so many people before it came out thought it was the most ridiculous thing. But I thought it was the most revolutionary thing, because I was like, okay, how many songs in English do we have that say, I don't care, I don't fucking care, I don't care what you say about me? Like, we've heard it a million times. How many times have you heard that in Lebanese?
Never.
By a girl.
Never.
Never. مش والله. I can comfortably say I am the first person to do that. And I thought it was so, I didn't need to say more than that in the chorus, like, you know, آخر همي مش حغير دربي آخر همي. I was like, can you imagine this person sitting in their room listening to this in the dialect that they speak, being able to sing those words and feel like عن جد آخر همي? I got this reference from Bad Bunny in Spanish, that he has a song where he's in that concept of I don't care, I'll dress whatever I want, blah blah. And it's such a powerful anthem to me, and like gives me this kick when I need it, this extra kick when I need it. I'll listen to that song and I realize, why don't we have this in Lebanese?
100%.
So for me to make all these songs, it's so important to say them this way. I'll tell you a story that I've never said publicly, but I remember when I first did Sint El, I sent it to Anthony from Adonis. And we were thinking about working on it together, and his feedback was like, the lyrics doesn't like work for me. I want to like redo it in a more poetic way. And we had this back and forth, and we got to the point where he was like, listen, like, I love you. We need to make a choice here. Like, if you're not going to go in this direction that I am suggesting, which he sent me a revised lyric of the thing. Yeah, completely, which is like, love him. Like, love what he does. Great for him. That's the way he expresses himself. But I really sat with myself, and I wanted to work with him so much at the time on that. But then I really, when I thought about it, I was like, this doesn't represent me. Like, I don't speak like that. I wouldn't have written this lyrics. I feel that it needs to be much more like, even if there are quirks in the way that I'm saying certain things, I really feel that it needs to be very authentic. So we agreed not to work on that together very consciously. Shout out to Anthony, by the way. Shout out Adonis, like, all the love to them. But like, my point is, like, it was very intentional for me, although I had literally no one telling me great lyrics. Literally no one till now.
Like, well, I'm telling it to you.
No, I mean, like, love you, all my fans. Like, but I mean, like, it's not like it wasn't encouraged. It was something that I really had to take a risk, in the sense of like, I know that the songs I resonate with the most are not the songs that are like, you know, so complicated to understand or so poetic. Like in hip hop, I like things that just, sometimes you need to be very poetic, but sometimes you need to say the same word over and over again, and that's the vibe, you know. And I really need to go with what feels right in that. So I took a big risk, big risk. Hasn't been done before, for sure. It's really, really, really 100% unapologetically me. It's my magnum opus. I have produced all this music, mixed it, directed all the music videos, which are interconnected. It's a story. If you go on YouTube, they're all numbered so that you can see how they're connected. Like, I fully engineered this to represent who I am right now. And a lot of the artistic choices are not, or most of them are not at all what anyone would have advised me to do. I really followed what I wanted to do in that sense. But it's also very, very diverse. Like, you have hip hop beats, then you have these crazy beat flips. It goes house, electronic synth waves, synth solos, and then you have parts where I'm like fully rapping. Then you have parts where I'm saying na na nia that don't make sense, like, because I forgot the lyrics or whatever, and like, it's so diverse. You have an Afrobeat section with trumpets, but it's very much who I am as a musician, as an artist. As I really chose every time along the way, artistically, I chose me in this one.
I love that.
in this one.
So
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah.
So powerful.
So please go stream it.
Yeah,
It's
for
out.
sure. Check out Villain Balakos. I really wish there was an artist like you when I was younger, because I remember like loving Arabic music. I mean, obviously like late 90s, early 2000s with Nancy and Elissa, who shares my name, you know what I mean? And we're all like, and Haifa and the vibes. But I struggled singing along because of what was originally expected for artists
Yeah.
to do. Like they sang in an Egyptian dialect, the way that they stretched their letters and the vowels into the next word, like even if I could say phonetically, I had no idea what I was saying. I was so disconnected from my own culture and my own language.
And thematically, was it accessible to you?
No.
There is this trend, I don't know why. Thematically, it's love, a heartbreak, a longing.
Yes.
Yani for someone or for the country. And that's pretty much it. So even to go outside of these themes,
Yeah.
there isn't one song on my album that is about, I mean, clearly or first degree wise, about heartbreak or about a guy, because that's all that's out there. So
Yes.
I'm really like, we really need to diversify these
Yeah.
themes. We need to talk about other things. We need to talk about revenge. We need to talk about depression. We need to talk about like being at the club drunk, nazilli big champagne. Like
Yeah.
no other woman has said that. And like, why have they not? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So yeah, this was, I wish I had someone like that growing up.
The way that you have to keep rebuilding and keep pushing. You're creating the future that you want to enter into, because there isn't like an existing path right now for you to walk down. There isn't like a safe space of like, oh, I see my future, like I'm gonna go win a Grammy, because there's no path from where you are that has already been carved by another right now. And so you are the one who has to take on that responsibility for you. And I do want to like sit in that truth, because not only is it beautiful for you, but it makes me think of all the young artists who see you doing what you're doing and see you still coming out with a reinvented energy and with a new style, and still not just doing it for you, but helping other artists. Like you guys are kind of paving this new way and building that future for music that I, for one, cannot see what that looks like for artists
Yeah.
like you right now. But knowing that it is artists like you that are paving it comforts me a lot and makes me really excited. And I wonder, what is the future that you see for the industry, for music, for artists like you at this time? Are you able to look in like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, a year from now? How do you engage with the idea of future and kind of moving into it?
If I have not thought about the future in a while. It's been so on the survival mode end of things. I, of course, have hopes and dreams and ideas and see things developing in a beautiful way for the region, the entire region. My PTSD is always holding me back from hoping too much. Like there's always this rope on my neck that's being pulled every time I relax a little bit too much. So that there's that. You were talking about putting out work and other artists seeing it or people seeing it. And something that always happens that I hear is like when I talk to people, like through conversations in real life, like, or this conversation that we're having, like a lot of people don't realize how challenging putting out a project is, filming a music video, doing a song, until we speak and they go, you make it look so effortless and that we don't even realize. And in a way that's good, because it means that the work is good and the way we've rolled out is good. But in another sense, I think it's really important, the conversation we're having, for people to have a certain perspective on the behind the scenes of things. Even artists, I'm completely independent. My label is completely independent. I've never gotten an advance or funding from anything. Actually, my upcoming album just received a little bit of funding from AFAC, which was the first time ever.
Amazing.
That was great. But generally, it's been super us just putting our, our hands together and doing things. So It is not as easy as a lot of people are telling me that it looks. It is extremely challenging, but it is also extremely rewarding. Even the shoots and the things, because the music is like very, like it's me in a studio. But when I do shoots or shows, or when we do a music video and a big team comes together and you see people like have a purpose and put their entire selves and their time and their efforts and their resources into whatever my vision is at the time, like Khtaita, the last music video that I did, there was a huge production team behind it. And like just seeing people feel like they're doing something and they're working for it. And there's like 60, 70 people for 3 days, like just like hustling because of my music or because of a vision or because they want to feel like they're a part of something or because they want to feel productive creatively or that they're manifesting themselves. Like, sometimes we're shooting for 20, 30 hours and I have not eaten or slept and I'm doing a million things and I'm directing with my earpiece while I'm in front of the camera and all that. And I hadn't slept because of the prep and I'm supposed to look rested and glamorous on the camera and all that. But I look and I see all these people doing that. Like, I'm gonna go all the way for them. Like, I'm riding all the way for these people. There's no way. There's no way I'm gonna stop for 1 second. It is very challenging, but I think that the purpose that it gives us is our safety, you know? It's the only way forward. That's what I've realized, especially in the war, talking to all my friends and people around me. Like, the main thing was like our purpose was taken away. The things we're working on seem so unnecessary. So إنه أصلاً مش وقتها هلا قاعد فكر بالmusic أو بشو. Oh my God, this was happening and now it's not. Like, we have to figure out if our house is gonna collapse or not. Like, it's, you know, and having no purpose in those gaps when you're not literally running for your life or trying to figure out how you're gonna get food or all those things, and you're sitting with yourself and there's no purpose, it's really, really dark. So giving people purpose through the work that we do through the label, giving myself purpose is the way forward now, is the future, until I don't think that I could very clearly speak about what the future looks like because I'm still on my toes. But I would hope that it is a very thriving music scene. I will say that.
Okay.
And even bigger than Lebanon, going to, you know, coming to Cairo, all these other countries where Dubai, all these other countries where things are happening, and really having a bigger view on the industry just makes me so much more hopeful and makes me so much more inspired. And it's crazy to see all this development happen in the past few years. I can only wish and work my ass for it to be happening in Lebanon. That's my dream. My dream is to see Lebanon thriving, to see other labels forming and producers having studios to go to, artists having studios to go to, there being enough venues for there to be shows, there being the people coming back, being an audience for that. Like, it's a whole thing that needs to happen. It's a whole, that's why I say like ecosystem, because it's really scarce right now. But I hope, whether it's me or anybody else, that's my dream for Lebanon.
Yeah. Wow, me too. I share in that dream so much. Okay, Blu, so at the end of our shows, when we have guests, we like to ask them a series of questions based around the name of the podcast. The podcast is Sage Takes Time. We'll ask you a question about sage and wisdom, one about hot takes, and one about time that passes, not time that you consume. First question is, what is a bad piece of advice that women are often given that they should completely ignore?
Oh, so many thoughts, so many controversial thoughts. No, wait.
Say them.
I mean, generally, I think while advice is good and it's good to sometimes hear other people's perspective, it's also really important not to take advice at face value for what it is. I've had to ignore a lot of advice, like I was saying earlier about advice that I've gotten, to really find my way. And so I always tell artists not to listen to advice, to absorb it and see how you feel about it, but not to take all the advice. So I will say that as my least controversial
which give me one of the advices that they shouldn't take.
No, because they're very controversial, and I don't know, maybe I'll feel differently about it down the line, but I'm thinking of things like, you know, beauty's pain. or, you know, which I subject to sometimes. Like,
We
you see me
are
wearing
all-
these things in shoots for 20 hours. Like, that's not normal. I still do it.
Yeah,
That's
okay,
not
you know.
controversial.
That's not
So you would
controversial.
say like beauty is not like fuck beauty that is painful. What is the?
Well, yeah, but like the fashion industry likes me, so I don't want to. Look at me in my sweats. You know, I spent my 20s being uncomfortable in my 30s. There's no fucking way.
Yes.
Like, my body's been reshaped by the decisions I made in my 20s. I won't do, like, I just can't. My choice now is to be comfortable.
Yeah,
Yeah. I feel like when I feel comfortable, everything changes. Like,
I agree.
I grew up, that was not the philosophy at all. Like, no pain, no gain, you know? I don't care if my toes are blue.
Okay, awesome. I'm worried about how you're going to take the next question, which is like more of a hot take situation. But what is a social norm that needs to just die already?
Sorry, so many thoughts in my head, yet none
okay.
whatsoever. I really don't conform, Anjad. I don't conform. For example, growing up, a lot of the conversation was around like, I'm one of the boys and pink is disgusting and whatever. And now I'm very much like, pink is resistance. Like, you know, so I think a norm that I grew up like Hike with kind of subconsciously forming in my head was that other women are the enemy or are not cool, and being one of the boys is the cool thing.
Yes.
I think without knowing, I just look back at my childhood and like how I used to make decisions and like carry myself around. The less girly I was, the more I used to think I was cool for some fucking reason. So that must die.
Yes.
At all costs, this must die because it is very, 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 very wrong and will set you off in a direction in life that is bad. We'll keep it at that. So I don't know if that's a social norm, but I feel like this is something that I struggled with.
I can totally relate to that,
Yeah.
by the way. I had a very similar phase. And the last question that we have is about time. What do you hope a future version of yourself has figured out?
Balance between the creative and the CEO or business or whatever. It's hard to tap in and out. I go into my creative flow very intensely, and then I'll go into like my business manager hat very intensely. And my dream is to be able to clock in and out. And if I can do that, watch out.
Yeah.
Watch out.
I know we could go on forever, but we can't right now. And if you guys really want us to have more of these conversations, let us know in the comments below, or let us know in the reviews, because I would love to have Blu on again.
Honestly, it felt like a therapy session. I'm not gonna lie. It's this couch. I don't know what it is.
It's too soft.
But I aired it all out. Like, I'm coming out of here like I need a nap. Like, emotionally, Anshat, thank you for making me feel so comfortable and for creating the space. I was a bit like, oh, what are we gonna talk about? This was so fluid.
Yeah,
I'd
it
love to
felt
come
very
back.
natural. And don't forget, you're also surrounded by a bunch of like regional artists. All of this is women-made art from here, from the area. Like, so all their power is coming into this space. That's
I
why
feel it, wallah.
it all flows when we sit here. If you love this conversation, let us know. Please like and comment and subscribe and share and all the things that help boost us in the algorithm. And if you're not already, please make sure to join as a paid YouTube member as well as a paid subscriber on Apple Podcasts. We're an independent media company and mafi budget, so we really
relate to that.
we really relate, and we really appreciate you guys for supporting us. Thank you so much.